Welcome to the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. I'm your host, Jason Alexander, the blue moon of Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. Last week on AMC, the full moon that took place around midnight on April 27th played out Monday with a 13% green day. We definitely saw that coming. Although AMC having really great transits last week, the waning moon, which started on Tuesday, was enough to keep us down the remainder of the week. Even though I was optimistically hoping for a double moon phase run, I do now believe in this waning moon. We are, regardless of the price action, in a colonization phase. AMC will be colonizing into the coming new moon, which takes place May 11th. And later we'll look at some support and resistance lines based upon the moon phases. So I'm okay with this colonization phase during the waning moon because this lined us up for a bull run during the waxing moon, which is going to be leading up to an eclipse full moon. Check out this video over here if you want to get a little bit of idea what an eclipse is and what I think that means for AMC. Of course, I'll be dropping a video for that full moon during that week. But if you are a Moon Lord and you're in the Discord, or if you've been on this channel for a long time, you know what I'm expecting around that eclipse time. Alright, moving on. Okay, so you guys know I look at the stars because it gives us more insight to what we can't see going on with the stock. Although it does give us insight of what we can't see. Obviously we know that based upon past predictions. And although they're not always right, they're right more than half the time. Last week we saw on the full moon, AMC's CEO Adam Aron had a very interesting full moon because it landed right on his Saturn, which is in direct correlation to AMC Saturn. And we said this is a milestone type energy that we could see taking place this week. And it's probably something he was working on behind the scenes. But that ended up being the fact that he was no longer going to have the 500 million dilution offering on the table for a vote. Which, in theory, people are saying that pretty much killed the hedge funds on making a massive FUD move on the vote that was going to take place this week on May 4th. You guys can hear more about that theory by Matt Kors on his video that he put out Saturday. Okay, so let's look at the moon phases and then we're going to look at the stars. Okay, so I have the moon phases pulled up here. And the white one is the full moon, the black one is the new moons, the blue background is the waxing moon while the moon is growing, while the moon is getting fuller, okay, and then the gray is the waning when the moon's dying, becoming a new moon again, and so on, okay? So, obviously we've been tracking the moon phases, and we're looking for a double run after this full moon. Okay, we weren't looking for a reversal, but obviously you can see the waning moon caused us to start going down. But that's okay, because I always said the waning moon is more of a letting go energy, so it's more of a things getting smaller, not growing. And I always looked at it as more of a consolidating phase. Okay, so I do think we're going to be consolidating into the new moon around the May 11th time. However, I do not think we're going to go lower than the previous full moon before the last one. Okay, so over here, it looks like we were at about $10. Okay, and that's pretty much where we are now. Okay, and so during that waning period, the lowest that the price went was $8.50. Okay, so I think, so let me rephrase. During this entire phase of the waning moon, I think we're going to be overall above at least the $10 mark based upon the last full moon, okay? But during the phase of this waning moon, we could go as low as $8.50 worst case scenario. I don't see us going lower than that support line, okay? But I see us potentially hitting around the $9.50 mark based upon, you know, these supports that I'm kind of seeing is around that area, okay? So during this waning moon, to me, we're consolidating, and we're going to have more of a climax after the May 11th new moon. Okay, because look, it's really simple. The squeeze happened right there during the end of this waxing moon, right at like a day right before the full moon. Okay, and right here, the full moon this day, where we had the 13% last Monday, 13% plus day, that was the night of the full moon. The full moon was midnight to Tuesday, but that happened on Monday night. Okay, and that's what we had, the same exact scenario. Okay, so I expect this full moon around this May 26th, I believe, is actually an eclipse. Okay, so you can check out my other video about what I think about that day and what an eclipse is. And obviously we're going to do a whole video on that date later, but things do look like it's lining up for about that time to really make a big move. Okay, so let's check out the stars. Okay, so now we're looking at Monday, May 3rd, 9:30 a.m. So the first thing I want to point out is Mars square Mars. It is now 0 degrees. That's pretty powerful. We talked about that last week. It came into play, I want to say on Wednesday, and I said, listen, Mars brings energy. It can go either way. It could be a cutting energy or the opposite, but Mars typically is like a warrior and it's more of a destroying energy. That's why it is in red. It kind of creates a little bit of turmoil, and it is a fighting energy as well. It's the planet of war. Okay, so AMC is in a fight, and AMC, the Mars for AMC doesn't want to be in Libra, so it's not like a fighter here. And then the transiting Mars is debilitated in Cancer, so it's kind of a weird energy here. Okay, but to me, based on what happened last week, and especially since this is now 0 degrees, that's to me doesn't create buying pressure in this case. Okay, but on a positive note, the moon is in AMC's first house. Sometimes when the first house of AMC gets planets in there, that's when we saw the squeeze. We had like Jupiter, the Sun, Mercury was in there. I think Venus was in there. So now for Monday, the moon is in there. So maybe that does suggest some good activity. The moon is making a positive aspect to Uranus, but I did look into that. I went all the way back to 2018, didn't see any patterns with that one, and I saw more red days than green days on that pattern. The same thing when Venus is here, making an opposition to Saturn, which we talked about it. Saturn can bring a more of suppressing energy. It can bring a stabilizing energy as well, but this does suggest maybe not strong volatility on Monday, if you ask me, because Saturn's involved. Now, I do like what Mercury's doing over here, because it is getting a very nice trine, 0 degrees to Venus. Okay, and sometimes when Venus gets aspects over here, it does make some strong moves. But we just got a Pluto retrograde on top of Venus, so it's almost like Pluto's like, hey, let's hold on for the transformation real fast. When the retrograde means the planet's going backwards, astrologically speaking, that's why we have an R right here, and it's a time to reflect, retune. Okay, and Venus is getting hit by Mercury, so maybe there's some work being done in the backgrounds. This could suggest, since Venus is partnerships, Pluto's is like takeovers or power merging. This could be some type of partnership working behind the scenes. So this is good. Just historically speaking, it doesn't really move the stock as far as astrologically speaking, but it looks good for that type of activity. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be playing out on the price action necessarily, but a lot of this stuff could be happening behind the scenes. And we do also have Uranus over here making very powerful transits to Pluto, 0 degrees to the moon, and 0 degrees to Pluto and the moon. That's very powerful. So that's been, because Uranus moves so slow, that's been in effect for a long time. But this is energy to thrust us into the future, break the old ways, and bring in the new. Okay, but for overall Monday, it looks like a pretty neutral day, if you ask me, overall on Monday. So let's take a look. And if I had to pick one day, I would say there's more of a red day based on past astrological history. But again, guys, I don't really care where the price goes. I mean, as long as it doesn't fall underneath the 850, I really won't be thinking much of any of the pricing dips during the waning moon. In fact, I'll just be buying as much as I can. You guys know this is not financial advice, and I'm just like some guy that looks at the stars because I have nothing better to do. Anyway, we have Tuesday up, and the first thing that I like that I see here is Mercury is getting an aspect from the moon that's in AMC's first house. And that's looking pretty bullish right off the bat, because whenever Mercury is getting aspects, especially from the moon, this Mercury, the natal Mercury, that's pretty bullish, positive aspects. But we have seen some cases where even a square from the moon and Mercury does work out. But I can't ignore the fact that now Mars is squaring Uranus at the same time along with Mars. So it's like we got a positive one, but with a negative one on top of it. Okay, so that's positive, that's negative, kind of still looking neutral, but I do want to kind of look back in the past to see every time the moon hit right there from the first house hitting Mercury in that positive sextile, to see if we can see any patterns. Okay, so the last 3 times the moon was right here, 23 degrees Aquarius, that was making that sextile to Mercury, but also the square to the midheaven for that matter. We got red days, so it kind of fluctuated between I think it was like 1%, and one time it was 3%, another time it was 6% negative. So based on that, I do suggest, based on past history, that maybe Tuesday is not the best day. Okay. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is very interesting. Okay, so over here we have Mercury, the planet of news, the planet of communication, coming home to Gemini, 0 degrees. Now Gemini is a very fast moving planet. This is a planet of deals and making things come together, and news broadcasting. This looks very, very interesting, because Mercury is not only 0 degrees, but it's also making that 0 degree trine to AMC's ascendant. Okay, so I did look at past days on there, and what I saw, mainly neutral price action, a little bit of plus 2%, a little bit of plus 3%, a little bit of -3, a little bit of -1. It was pretty much neutral. I went all the way back to 2017. This is a transit that only happens once a year, but it is still a positive transit, and it's just suggests positive news. Okay, even though it is making a square to Neptune, and Neptune is also the traveling Neptune is also making a square to Mercury. That also obviously is going to suggest that deception energy, but it looks like AMC is going to handle it, and we are handling it, but we are still in that battle. I mean, look at Mars over here making a square to Mars and a square to Uranus. Okay, so let's look at Wednesday. When I look at Monday, May 5th, I don't see much that changed on this chart, but if I go back 24 hours, the one thing I do want you guys to look at is the moon over here and what the moon does. So the moon's in the first house, and it's also making the square to the midheaven on Tuesday, which isn't ideal, okay? But during the night into the next trading day, the moon goes over Jupiter, which Jupiter is making a positive sextile to the sun. Okay, Jupiter is lucky. It is also in the first house, and it's also conjuncting the the Neptune loosely. All right, it's pulling up on it, but it is still conjuncting it. And so when I go 24 hours into Wednesday, the moon went over Jupiter, and it went over Neptune over here into Wednesday. Okay, and this is all taking place in Pisces, and Pisces is great energy for like the movies and stuff like that, and it's good energy for things working behind the scenes. So maybe there's some good activity. AMC's handling things behind the scenes, dealing with the Neptune energy, with great optimism and wisdom. That would be Jupiter over here. Okay, but that's all that I saw that changed from Tuesday to Wednesday, but it was an interesting change, and maybe during the aftermarket to the pre-market onto the trading day. Maybe we get some type of news. Maybe we get some type of positive catalyst, potentially, or we could find out about some more deception that leads us to be more optimistic and about the future of AMC. But I don't see a major change or a theme change of any sort that I can really speak on other than that. So let's look at Thursday. Okay, so I want you guys to look when I go 24 hours and look at the chart. We definitely had a theme change. Can you guys see it? The first thing that pops up to me is Saturn is no longer getting any aspects that are bad or potentially bad, which was getting an opposition from Venus from last week, and on Monday was getting the opposition from Mercury. Okay, and we know Saturn can bring a suppressing or depressing energy to the stock, but now it's getting a positive aspect to the moon, which to me is a more of a stabilizing energy. Okay, but the moon is also making one of my favorite aspects for AMC. It's aspecting Mercury. I know it's a square, but I've seen that work out good before. For instance, when GME had that last week, GME announced that their CEO was resigning, and that actually brought the stock up because it looked like they were going to look for a CEO that's going to be more innovative for the future. Okay, but yet the moon is making a very positive trine to Jupiter. It's making a very positive trine to Saturn, 0 degrees, and it's making a aspect, not positive, but an aspect to Mercury. And I'm going to look at that as positive because whenever we get Mercury with AMC, it does move the stock. And this theme does suggest that maybe we have volatility at the very least on Thursday, but Thursday looks the best to me. Another thing I want to point out is Mars is no longer getting the square to Mars over here, and Mars is now getting a trine to the transiting Mercury from over here in the sky. So yes, a major theme change for Thursday, and if any day looked really good to me, it would definitely be Thursday. All right, so let's jump over to Friday, May 7th. Friday looks very interesting for many reasons. Now we have Mars exactly conjunct the moon, and it's also square Uranus, 0 degrees, and now it's opposite Pluto over here. So that's very, very interesting to me because Mars is volatile. It brings in a lot of energy. Okay, now Mars does represent surgery. It can be cutting type energy. The moon is waning, and it is opposite Pluto, which is also like a transformative energy. Okay, and Uranus could be like a breakthrough type energy. Okay, so I mean Friday definitely looks volatile just on what's happening here. But what I also see is Mercury is now 0 degrees trine the natal Mars of AMC, so that looks kind of positive to me. But we also are getting one of my favorite little aspects with the moon over here. It's making an aspect to the ascendant, 0 degrees, and to making a sextile to Venus. Now guys, I did look into this day several times. This is a historical day for AMC where the moon is at 0 degrees in Aries. I looked every single time it happened in 2020, so I had to look at every single month, and I did the same thing in 2021. And most of the times we get a positive day over 5%. There was a couple of times where it was over 15%, and there was one time where we did have a negative 13%. But overall, since 2020 and 2021, this has been a volatile day, and it's been positive days. So Friday for the close to me looks volatile, and I would probably say Friday is a bullish day. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Just another tool we can use for our DD, for our investments. This is the Market Moon Lord, where we merge the matrix with the stars. I'm your host, Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon and Neptune, here to help you navigate through the illusions of life. Thank you so much for you guys' support, for watching. Shout out to the Moon Lords in the Discord. Guys, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and share this video. Until next time, peace.
Jason Alexander, the Blue Moon of Neptune.